Welcome, family. Once again, worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. As usual, you're listening to another song from off my album. It's called The Ill Grip. All right, folks. We'll allow a few minutes for everybody to come on in, family. Come on in, family. True indeed. True indeed. Do the hood, feeling good, fresh to death like you should. That's the ill grip. The ill grip. Ladies got your hair did, fresh cut where you live. That's the ill grip. The ill grip. Hustle hard, cop for real, time to flex real quick. That's the ill grip. The ill grip. There's a reason that they spraying all this ish in the sky. Government. We wait for another 30 seconds or so, and then we're gonna dive right in. No stamp of approval. Are you low vibing types best prepared for removal? Worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. The TOD's in effect. That was what you expect. It's for the damn same. The whole thing must change. The corporations swipe you up and whitewash the brain. Your society's behind that. Who do you think? The brainwash them so quick, don't pause or blink. Sucker move, get back. Best embrace the king. Flexing higher frequencies, new knowledge to bring. When you got your mind right, then your spirit shines bright. That's the ill grip, the ill grip. You ain't falling for the plan of the 1% clan. That's the ill grip, the ill grip. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, folks. Come on in. Get comfortable. We're going to talk today. Spend some time with one another. Once again, that was a song off my album. The title is The Ill Grip. All right. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right. Man. Another beautiful day. Another beautiful opportunity for us to come together in this wonderful forum that we built together. Please, everybody, announce yourself in the chat as you come on in. I see we starting to file in a little bit there. And let's get ready to talk to one another and build, right? True indeed. All right, well, a couple more seconds. I must say, I do believe that we have a particularly powerful and stimulating conversation tonight. Hey, Deanne, what's up? My good friend, thank you for joining us this evening. Who else we got in here? Come on and holler at me so I can say hi to you and announce you and welcome you to the conversation. Come on, folks. But yeah, tonight's conversation, again, I do believe is of a particularly powerful and thought-provoking nature, which is what we like. So we can have something to talk about and to build upon with one another. All right, so tonight, what I want to do is discuss with you. First, I'm going to share with you my understanding via my years of research and studying and really deep diving into things, information of an external and internal nature, right? Please, everybody else, Come on in, get comfortable. Let's get ready to talk here. Please announce yourself in the chat so I can say hi and welcome you to the conversation. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the great and divine system, right? We're going to start to talk about why we are having this human experience, right? Folks, I think that probably, certainly one of, if not the oldest questions and most profound questions is why are we here? Why are we living? Right? Why does humanity exist? All right. I love these kind of conversations. So I'm gonna dive right in. First of all, I think to have this is what we call an existential conversation, right? And in order to have a conversation of this nature, we need to have, in my opinion, some things that we sort of agree upon, or more so lay as a foundational or baseline for the conversation, right? Most anybody who follows my channel, or just I'm finding more and more people in general, which is a beautiful thing, are aware of the fact that everything in existence is never at rest. It is always in some form of vibrational motion. All right. And we're talking about existence, down to the atomic level, even the subatomic, down to the neutrino level, right? Everything is in this constant motion, this vibratory motion, this sort of to and fro action, right? And how often a particular particle does this vibrational motion within a given time frame gives you the frequency. Okay, that's what we're referring to when we say vibrational frequency. So all things are vibrating or in a vibrating state and have a actual particular frequency, as unique and particular as our fingerprints are to us. All right. So that's one of the things we want to set in our baseline, that everything is in vibration and has its own vibrational frequency. All right. Human beings, all right, are multidimensional light beings or spiritual beings having a corporeal or physical human existence. Hey, Heather, glad to see you made it on in. Magnificent. Thank you for announcing yourself, and welcome. Welcome. We're talking about the great and divine system and why we are having this human experience. Okay, so we have those two things sort of in our baseline for the conversation, that all things are in vibrational frequency, are in vibrational motion, and have their own unique vibrational frequency. Human beings are multidimensional light beings. Now, just so you know, folks, everything in existence, or at least everything in our 3D, 4D corporeal existence on this planet, is actually the product of, or the 3D, 4D, third and fourth dimensional light matrix, right? You could call it that, but it is literally how we are interpreting light, right, to formulate our physical existence. And light, just so that you know, another part of our baseline for this conversation, light is the most complex, the most um, expansive means of transmitting information. All right. So, human beings, multidimensional light beings, or spiritual beings having a corporeal or physical human existence. All right. All these things we have in our baseline. Um, when I refer to the great and divine system, well, before I go there, we know, of course, that all things spring from one source, right? Ultimately, just in logical thought, we understand that everything has an origin and all things must have an origin, right? Um, Many of us refer to that as the great and divine source. Some may refer to as our higher power, our God, or Allah, or whatever your belief system is, your spiritual system. You know, we are accepting of all of that, right? Um, but we understand that all of us and all things spring from the source, right? Or from the creator. Um, there is nowhere that the creator is not. The creator is everywhere. Brother Sean Johnson chiming in, checking in. Thank you. Thank you tremendously for being with us here today, brother. We welcome you to the conversation. All right. We are discussing the great and divine system and why we're having this corporeal system. We are establishing a baseline for the conversation with the facts that all things in existence are in vibrational motion. That all things have their own specific and unique vibrational frequency. We have established that light is the most complex, the most vast and expansive form and most efficient form of transmitting information. And we have established that human beings are multidimensional uh, light beings or spiritual beings, however you want to phrase that, that are having a corporeal or physical human existence. All right. These are all parts of our baseline for the conversation. We're also establishing that all things spring from or emanate from the creative source, whether we refer to that as the source, the creator, God, Allah, whatever your spiritual system is or your belief system, whatever is comfortable for you is fine with us, right? Just that we understand and establish that all things spring forth from the source, right? And that the creator is everywhere. There is nowhere that the creator is not. That, folks, includes within you. I'll give you all just a few seconds to let that sink in, truly. All right. Understanding that, we need to understand our relationship with our creator and how we fit into existence on the spiritual, multidimensional light being level before we go into what and why that is the foundation of our experience as a human, or why, as a multidimensional light being or spiritual being, we would have a human experience. So, as spiritual beings or multidimensional light beings, we are also fractals. All right. Um, We are, and I see you, Sean. I'm gonna get to your comments. I'm gonna open it up um, in a moment after I finish presenting this, because that's an important aspect, certainly. Um, we are corporeal beings that we are having this corporeal experience as spiritual or multidimensional light beings for a reason, most certainly, and understanding that we spring forth from the source. Um, what is our relationship as these spiritual beings to the source, which is most certainly from where all spirits or all spirits, all things of a multidimensional or spiritual nature, all things, period, spring forth from? We are what is known as fractals of the source, right? Um, I'm trying to come with the most efficient and best way to explain what a fractal is. And I actually saw a very good illustration of what a fractal is displayed some time ago downtown um, in the Brooks Brothers building. Not to incorporate their name into the video, but that just happens to be the building I observed this sign in. So their sign was a golden, you could see it as you approached it. It was a golden sheep with like a gold ribbon around it, right? But the closer you got to the sign, you saw that it actually was pixelated in some way, right? But then the closer you got to that, you could see that what appeared to be from a distance to be pixels were actually fractals, which means that each of those small little pixels, or what I thought were pixels, were actually smaller sheep. They were smaller versions of the total picture, which was the sheep with the ribbon around it. Each one of those little pixels that the overall picture was broken into, or fractalized into, right, was a complete picture, miniaturized version of the overall total picture. Okay? Just a smaller version, and the collection of all of them went toward making up the total picture of the sheep with the ribbon around it. That's just a little bit of an understanding of what a fractal is, right? Our spirits are of the divine source. We are part of the divine source. Not that don't get me wrong, folks, not trying to give you some visualization of the creator broken into these little pieces. That's not what I'm saying. Understand, though, that energy, all energy emanates from a source. And as these spiritual beings, we are indeed energy that has emanated from the source, right? And our spirits, what we are, spirits are what we are. That's another thing, folks, that as a baseline of the conversation, we need to understand. We are the spirits. We don't have a spirit. That's one of the ways that indoctrination has sort of kept us from being in touch with our divinity, okay, is posing in our minds that a spirit is something separate that we have or have some connection with. No, you are the spirit. All right? You are the spirit. You are the multidimensional light being. This physical body is your vessel or your vehicle in which to interface with this corporeal or physical life. All right? So you are a spiritual fractal of the creator. All right? And you are when you come into your human body, then having a corporeal, physical human experience for you, the spirit being, the light being. All right. Um, with that in mind, understand that as spirits, as multidimensional light beings emanating from the source of all things, we don't have the same perceptions of or experiences of frailties or vulnerabilities is a better word. We do not have the same vulnerabilities that we do in physical form. We are not hungry as spirits. We do not have to sleep as spirits, right? We don't understand or perceive fear in the same way, right? If at all, right? We don't understand or perceive any of the myriad of issues that go along with being a human being, right? Folks, we know and understand, as having made it to being adults, how complex it is to live a human life. The myriad, the innumerable amount of experiences that you have from the time you're born to the time you become an adult, and all of your mental, spiritual, emotional, physical reactions and responses to those experiences, and how they shape you in so many, probably millions of ways, right? That is the human experience. None of those things do we have as spirits. All right. We simply don't have those vulnerabilities. That is why we incorporate into a corporeal physical being. And in this lifetime, we are human. Now, why do I say in this lifetime we're human? Here's where we start to open up into our discussion of what the great and divine system is. All right, folks, in every galaxy, this goes on. We know that scientifically because we've been able to find evidence of DNA not only throughout our galaxy, but beyond. Okay? So this sort of corporeal experiment of living a corporeal or physical existence for spirits, this goes on and has gone on. Typically, it appears that there is one species in a galaxy at a time on a planet, on an evolving planet such as our own, that supports life in a way that our planet supports life. There's typically one at a time where, okay, let me back up a little bit. Woo, these complex conversations, you got to be careful because there are nuances that we don't want to leave out before going too far. So I stated, and I second the statement, that we know that there is DNA throughout the galaxy. Scientifically, folks, look into it on your own. Please. Never take anything I say or anyone else as end-all be-all fact. Look into it and check it out for yourself. All right? But we have that knowledge. So it is not at all a far-fetched thing to understand that life springs up and has sprung up in numerous places throughout our galaxy and other galaxies, numerous places throughout the universe and multiverse for that matter. Okay? All right. Anyone who has a difficult time sort of processing that or coming to terms with that, there are videos on my channel that you can refer to, and there's certainly just a plethora of information on life outside of the earth and also life beyond our understanding right here on the earth, because, well, that's a whole nother conversation I almost stumbled into. But the point is, the information is there for you to research. Okay. But yeah, we need to understand that life in the galaxy certainly has not originated on this planet, right? Understanding the age of certain planets, even, and the size of certain planets, we can understand quite easily how DNA could have evolved and likely has evolved in other places in the galaxy. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too far into that. But folks, understand that there are other civilizations. Okay, many refer to them in ufology and even also in metaphysical circles, as the star nations. We know of their intimate contact here on the planet and interaction and involvement with man through what is relayed to us in great detail through the indigenous peoples of the planet, if we but pay attention. Okay. The archaeological evidence is there. There is literally a mountain of information and evidence for anyone who would seek it out. All right. But I say that to say that the way the system works in the galaxy is that one at a time, a new species gets an opportunity to see if it will evolve, right? To see if it can evolve past the point of self-destruction. Now, why would I say that? Well, because, folks, part of evolution is eventually developing technology. Okay. And one thing that in divine wisdom we know to be true is that technological advancement absent spiritual maturity equals self-destruction. Okay. I'm not going to get into the story right now, but many of you are aware of the term trichodecanomia. I believe I'm saying that right. I think I said it right. If I didn't, somebody could correct me in the chat. But that's the fear of the number 13, right? And we don't really, well, now scientifically, actually, we do realize that we have memory from our ancestors in our RNA, part of our DNA sequence. And that, part of that memory, that ancestral memory, is the fact that one of the planets in our solar system, was destroyed. And that is now what is actually the asteroid belt. Not going to get into, again, that whole other conversation. We'll have to save that for another podcast. But that there's a bevy of information there as well. Okay. So again, getting back to the fact that one species at a time gets an opportunity to evolve. Okay. Evolve past the point of self-destruction. We, for a long time, were headed right towards self-destruction. And I know There's some of you right now who are going to say, Big King, I don't know what you've been paying attention to in the news lately, but we're headed towards self-destruction right now. No, we're not. I know what you're referring to. I know the conflicts around the world, folks. It will not end in world war. It will not end in nuclear warfare or Holocaust or disaster of any nature. That is known. That's actually a whole nother subject as well. But that's not what's happening. But there are evidences of that things are not going the same old way they used to and the way that they went historically, right? Historically, when these things have gone down and happened, we have seen nations pile on side to side. I talked about this in the previous podcast, how we're not seeing that. We're actually seeing whole nations stand up in outrage and protest at things like what Israel is doing in terms of their defense campaign, which is really a genocidal military campaign. But anyway, another subject. But folks, we for a long time were headed towards self-destruction. And now we have passed the precipice where we're starting to evolve and gain the spiritual maturity necessary, right? That's the beautiful thing about what we're going through right now on the planet. This awakening and the fact that we've made it, that we survived long enough to make it to this part of the galaxy that houses these energies that we've started to be exposed to that are very interactive, very powerful, and transformative in terms of evolution in higher consciousness for humanity and on this planet, right? So that's powerful, and that's a big part of this. Because we're that new species on the block, right? We're the species that's having its opportunity to evolve past the point of self-destruction. We're the new guys on the block. There are other species in the galaxy, folks, that are far, far advanced beyond us, right? I'm talking about species that have gone through this trial. It is, you could consider it a trial, right? That have gotten past this point in the galaxy. They call it the Big Rev or the Big Revolution, right? Essentially, it's the same thing that's referred to when you look at the big wheel in astrology, right? The 12 houses essentially make up 12 sections or areas or zones, right? Or regions or whatever you want to refer to it as. Those houses are areas or sections of the galaxy that we traverse through, right? On our solar system's orbit around the center of the galaxy, right? Which takes thousands of years, I believe somewhere around 36,000 years. I'm just throwing out a figure that's ballpark, folks. Don't quote me as that being the exact number of years that it takes. But there are species that have done this like over 1 million years ago, right? So there are species that are much, much more advanced and have been evolved like we're moving to be for a long time. And guess what? They're paying attention to this. They pay enormous attention to this. This is the great and divine system, the system of how species have a chance to evolve and see if they will last. Either you will destroy yourselves or you'll evolve. It's essentially how it works, right? And if you live long enough to make it to this part of the galaxy, this is where you get the energies that foster evolution into higher consciousness, and that species can then evolve to be its best self, its most expressed DNA, right? Folks, another scientific fact: your DNA expresses more fully, right? And at higher efficacy levels, the higher you go in consciousness, the higher the consciousness and the higher vibrational frequency that it is exposed to. That's scientific fact. Check it out. Okay. So that is essentially what we're doing in this whole process. As spirit, and yes, those other species were spirit beings as well, no different than us. Right? Some of us were them, i.e., people. Look into people who have experiences of past lives that are not human. Look into that phenomenon. You'll see what I'm talking about. But that is how it works, right? A species has essentially one revolution to see whether or not it will evolve or whether it will kill itself off in self-destruction. Okay? All right. So that is what we are doing. That's what those other spirits did as they went through their evolution process. And that's what we're doing right now on this planet, right? We're having this human experience where, again, we get to go through all these different experiences and stimuli that cause us to react and respond, right? Emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, and we grow and develop in all those ways, right? And these are all things that we would not have experienced as multidimensional light beings or spiritual beings, right? We would not have experienced that. We don't experience hunger or the need for sleep or the insecurities that we have all the time. Do my eyebrows look okay? Do my eyelashes, are they too small? You know, is my skin color right? Do I need to lighten my skin or darken it or whatever? Is my hair okay? These are things and issues that lie in our subconscious and that we go through from lifetime to lifetime as a collection or sort of a collage of experiences that develop your persona or the person that you grow to be in a lifetime, right? And the product of what you have experienced through the totality of all your lifetimes is the totality of spiritual maturation that you have as a 3D, multidimensional light being or a spiritual being, right? I'll state that again a little more simply. The product of all of those experiences, that collage of experiences that make up your individual lifetime and all of your lifetimes, is what matures you as a multidimensional light being, right? And as a spiritual being, however you want to phrase that. That is the entire purpose of having a corporeal existence in anybody, right? In a human body, in a snake body, in an Andromedan whatever body, right? The whole purpose of having physicality is to go through the spiritual maturation process. That's the purpose of life, right? Spiritual maturation. And it is all of these different things that we experience in physicality that give us the opportunity to evolve fully enough to become our best selves or our more and most evolved selves. If anybody remembers that little animation Pokemon, right? My son used to play with it all the time. We even had a little game we would play as the family, little Pokemon video game. So anyway, Pokemon evolve, right? And you see when you play the game different versions of the Pokemon, right? From their infant sort of stage or the initial stage all the way up to their fully evolved stage, right? There's usually 3 or 4 stages that they go to. And their fully evolved stage, you could say, is their best self, right? And that's what we're doing, growing to become our best self, to get to our most high vibrational frequency nature, to our highest vibrational frequency in consciousness, to give our DNA the opportunity to fully evolve and to fully express itself into its highest efficacy. Okay? That is what we are doing in this experience. So know, once again, that this is part of a system that happens species after species after species, right? And if you think about it, it's a quite beautiful system, right? That spans time, that goes through enormous spanses of time. And this is how the evolutionary process plays out, right? On our planet and others, quite frankly, right? So, okay, that's a good snapshot of what my understanding of the great and divine system is. There are certainly many more nuances and many more details of that I could get into. But let's see what comes out in the conversation. All right, folks. I know you've been dying to chime in, and I'm just no, you haven't been dying. You've been living to chime in, and I'm living to hear what you all have to say. Okay. So, catching up with Brother Sean Johnson. Brother Sean says the creator is our melanated woman, my opinion. Then he comes back and says we are not human. All right. 2 distinct points. I understand the thought, right? And I know how we have not given proper homage to the divine feminine energy on this planet, particularly in this society, right? In this westernized society dominated by male perceptions, particularly what is termed as white male perspectives. I understand that. However, we need to understand that the creator is not a man or woman or any corporeal being. We need to understand that. And I don't say that to be divisive, but human beings have this tendency to anthropomorphize, right? Meaning we have a difficult time understanding or perceiving the creator unless we wrap it in a shell that looks like us, right? And that's understandable because that makes it more relatable. So I understand that tendency. But to that, I would say that the creator is not a man or woman or a bird or an alien or any corporeal existence. The creator is all things and everything in existence. And as to the other statement, we are not human. Human is a term, right? And I can understand that perspective as well. If by, and I think this might be where you're going, correct me if I'm wrong, Brother Sean, but you might be going to the aspect of the fact that melanated beings, in fact, beings, period, on this planet, even our DNA, didn't originate on this planet. We are sort of by definition extraterrestrial, right? And that's pretty much all people. Now, why do I say that? Because we know that DNA came here from off of the planet to the planet, right? DNA was already abundant throughout the galaxy and universe, for that matter, and made its way to this planet so many eons ago. And more specifically, if you get into origin stories, right, involving the melanated, the highly melanated indigenous peoples of the planet, and then you start talking about how the planet was originally colonized, right? But again, that's getting off into a whole nother conversation. And I'm going to go ahead and have a podcast talking about that as well, because I have some very interesting information relative to that, and some sources that I can tie into certainly the great Dr. Delbert Blair, right? The late great Dr. Delbert Blair, the late great what's the brother's name? The Zulu spiritual leader. It escapes me. But there's a ton of information and evidence I can bring on that. All right, Sean comes back and says, "What is mitochondrial DNA? Nothing on this planet can live without it. And fortunately, it's a feminine energy." Okay. True that, right? Your mitochondria is the communication. I'm going to try to say this in a simplistic way and still make sure I'm correct. But your mitochondria are essentially like communication tentacles, right? Of your DNA, of which your DNA utilizes to communicate the information to all of the cells of your body, to tell them specifically how to replicate and what to replicate into. Okay. As far as it being a feminine energy, it is feminine and masculine. Folks, we have to understand the duality. You generally do not find in the universe feminine energy or masculine energy isolated. You in most things you have aspects of feminine and masculine energy. There's always that balance in the universe. The universe is always seeking balance. I just want to throw that out there. Can you pull me in on the live? I want to I'm going to work on that, folks, for next week. Hopefully, I will be able to have that sort of perfected so that maybe I can start bringing folks in. Maybe I can do it something like a Zoom where we can all be in on the conversation in that way. I'm not quite sure exactly how I can manipulate that, but I will work on that, Sean. Good suggestion. I would love to be able to do that. All right. Anybody? Heather, Deanne, if you got something on this, please chime in. Let's talk about it, folks. Sean, what do you think about the system? What are your thoughts on essentially the system and how it works for, as I was explaining, for a species at a time in the galaxy to have an opportunity to evolve? Please give me your thoughts on that. I would love to hear that. And again, I was stating that, just to rehash that in the galaxy and similarly around the universe and multiverse for that matter, life is constantly expanding and springing out, right? The universe itself is constantly expanding. So that opportunity for evolution is continually being given to a new species, right? We made it. We should be in the for real right now on the planet. When we get done, we're going to, once we get done with all this nonsense that the elites are essentially banging their head against the wall, trying to deny reality, which is that we made it. We are evolving, right? And when we get done seeing them basically throw a hissy fit, then we're going to go on and just party. We're going to go on and just party, man, because we made it, right? We made it. Okay. Heather says, what does melanated mean? Okay. So all beings, particularly all of man, human, mankind, whatever terminology you want to use, have melanin, right? Individuals such as myself, right, who would hail from a lineage that is typically referred to as African, but I get away from all those the terminologies, right? And certainly we know that black and white is a made up terminology invented back in the 1500s. But melanin is one of the most powerful and important chemicals in existence and in every body, right? Melanin acts in a person's body very similar to how chlorophyll acts in a plant. It is literally that important to you in your processing of, rather than your processing, it is important to the processing of energy, but more importantly, to how you utilize your body's energy at the cellular level. All right. Individuals such as myself, scientifically, it has been discovered that our bodies hold the highest grade of melanin, which is neuromelanin, at much higher percentages than other people's, right? You could call it the gift of our physical bodies if you like. That is not an egotistical statement I'm making, and certainly nothing that should be divisive. It is just the facts of um, our corporeal existence. Melanin is a superconductor of many things, various forms of energy, um, of light, of sound. It has even been proven to be a superconductor of consciousness. Um, Melanin is an incredible molecule. And if you want to get more information on the molecule itself, I always point people, there are many authorities on this, but I always point people to Dr. Layla Africa. Dr. Layla Africa. He is been very now, Heather. I'll forewarn you to not go into it with a sensitive mind, right? And when I say sensitive, and I already know you're not, but many of these things that we've had to uncover, and when I say we, I say people who have been termed as Black. Many of these informations that we've had to uncover, we've had to fight for to learn, specifically about ourselves. So that has created an atmosphere of militancy amongst many of us. And at times in explanation, you can find that in all of us. And also, I would say that in some of Dr. Africa's explanations, you may find that as well. But I never really would say that his statements are like to denigrate anyone or attacking anyone in a sort of disparaging nature. So I would just point you to him as one of the real authorities on melanin and how complex of a molecule it is. But we do all have melanin. It's just that some of us have much higher concentrations of the highest form of melanin, which is neuromelanin. All right. And that is important. It is probably a reason why you see quote unquote Black folks exhibit certain abilities, certain our taste. We can actually taste food on more multidimensional levels. We can process sound, i.e., music, for example, on more multidimensional levels. And there are other things relative to that as well. In fact, Deanne and I have had this conversation previously. Do you remember us talking about that, Deanne? Chime in when you get a chance. Okay, to catch up, Sean says, what portal did you come from to get to this planet? Well, there's a lot of different ways to get to this planet. I don't know specifically what you're referring to on that level, Sean. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more by what you mean in terms of what portal. I know that I happen to gain this knowledge through my awakening experience, right? That my higher self, when we start to talk about who I am on a spiritual level or multidimensional level, is a galactic being, right? That is intricately evolved or involved, should I say, in this great and divine system, where I incarnate I'm getting my words all messed up, folks. I incarnate into a physical being when the species is at this point. So I've done this before, so to speak. I've been through this before, and yeah, that's part of what I've discovered about myself. And these are folks. This is all esoteric, of course. Um, but that doesn't make any less valid. And certainly, any of us who understand about internal knowledge, and we had that conversation on this podcast before, you understand that through meditative techniques and other means of searching for information internally, you can find out a lot about who you are spiritually. And I just happen to find out that much about myself. So I can give you that much information about how and why I'm on this planet, Brother Sean, but I can't give you any more specific portal information to answer your question, brother. But chime back in on that if you like, please. Heather says, okay, thank you. I just never heard the term before. All right. Yeah, but melanin is very important, and is a part of, let me go in a little bit more into melanin, and how it is instrumental in all of us. So every person, every man, woman, and child walking this planet has an opportunity to go through what is termed as a Kundalini awakening. Now, I've said before that the Kundalini awakening is not an exclusive means. It's not the exclusive means to opening up access to your third eye and doorways into higher consciousness states, right? But it is one, and it is a very effective one. And that is one that any of us can utilize. And part of the fruits of the Kundalini awakening is higher efficacy of one's melanin, and that's anyone. But again, just know the differences in melanation in people. And by the way, my lineage having or being a part of peoples who have lineage that includes this highest level of melanin is part of the reason why we've been targeted on the planet. Now, I can get into a whole nother conversation, which I will later on in another podcast, maybe next week, or perhaps the week after, because we'll see. We'll see how far we get in things. But it's part of the reason why we've been targeted on this planet. And there are those who even have a very ugly and inhuman, demonic, you might say, and I use demonic just as a term to describe behavior. Like, I understand that demons in reality are actually, in my purview, not something that is a religious phenomenon as much as it is a multi-dimensional phenomenon. Okay, but we'll go into that as well later. And it's funny, right? When I said that, the light gives me, you get little spiritual things, right? For we all have spiritual things. There's a light to the left of me that clicked on and off, right? And many of the places where I'm at, there are very low vibrational frequency and very high vibrational frequency entities active. I have that active around me all the time. I've grown used to it, right? So I experience interactions with what you would call demons and angels and all sorts of multidimensional beings all the time. But you all have to understand, I just told you who and what I am on a spiritual level or multidimensional level. So I don't it's easy for me to not be fearful because, like, I'm not low on the totem pole. I'm the big king. You feel me? So, like, I didn't have my own experiences in what we call haunted houses and everything. There ain't no such thing as haunted houses around me. I'm the experience for them, but that's a whole nother thing. Um, and I appreciate them because all they really doing is giving a tug on the sleeve. Go ahead, you talking about something deep now, Big King. That's what that is. When I get different little interactions from, and I told y'all the veil is incredibly thin right now. So if anybody was here, you would have just seen this light go on, go off, and then right back on. No other reason for it. And if you were in my body, you would feel the chill just sort of goes through me. When you get those little chills go through you and all that, that's again just another little sleeve pull. You know, don't take it as something to be fearful of or something that you need to be alarmed about, right? Step into who you are. A lot of the times we get fearful about things because we view ourselves as like really low on the totem pole when we're not. I just told you earlier, you got the creative source inside you. All right. Brother Sean Johnson jumps back in and says, what's the difference between the X chromosome versus the Y chromosome? Please explain. Well, now we're getting into a DNA conversation, brother. Not exactly this particular podcast. What I will do, first of all, the X and Y chromosome quickly determines the sex of a quote unquote human or person. Okay. And it is really the means by which your DNA goes through coupling, right? Your maternal set of DNA carries the Y, or excuse me, paternal carries the Y chromosome from your father's side. And the X chromosome is what comes from the woman. Now, what is commonly stated in genetics is that the X chromosome is capable of breaking off and becoming the Y chromosome, right? So essentially, the woman carries the potential of both sexes. And this can even touches into a little bit into like unisex animals or existences. Like a worm has both male and female characteristics. Like yeah, I don't want to get too deep, too deep into that whole thing because that's a whole nother conversation that is valid, interesting, and important, but a little bit different. Thank you for bringing that up, and we could probably use it in a future podcast, brother. But give me some content. Give me something what you think specifically on what today's conversation is about, bro. Where do you sit on this whole system? What do you think about how there are how there are a plethora of species throughout the galaxy? Please, someone tell me what y'all think about this, because maybe you disagree, maybe you have an alternative system to offer, or maybe there's some aspect about the system that you see in a different light. But give me a little bit of feedback, please, on how you see the system where a species is able to mature past self-destruction right? Through spiritual maturity, right? Remember the formula. Technological advancement absent spiritual maturity equals self-destruction. That is the formula that essentially a species must solve before it completes a revolution around the center of the galaxy and gets to this point. Typically, if a species has not solved that equation, it will destroy itself, right? Because it will become so technologically advanced that it will, and what, by the way, the actual solution of the equation is unity consciousness. What we're here to learn, folks, is the difference between separation mentality and unity consciousness, and how and why unity consciousness is the way of it in the galaxy and in the universe, right? So in order for you to become an evolved, for us to have become an evolved species worthy of our place in the galaxy, we needed to and need to have solved the equation, right? When you understand that separation mentality prevents you from having substantial or sufficient spiritual maturation in order to survive to get to this part of the galaxy. If you are stuck in separation mentality, you simply don't, you rob yourself of the evolutionary opportunity to be able to benefit from making it to this part of the galaxy and evolving to the highest levels, right? Give me some feedback on that. Hit me, folks. Hit me. Doing a James Brown one time. Hit me. Matter of fact, I might even jump back and kiss myself. Come on now, give me something on that, folks. I'm gonna take a moment, and you know I usually partake, and I'm gonna get ready to do that. And while I'm doing that, somebody please, Heather or Sean or Deanne or somebody, give me your feedback specifically on where you sit on the great and divine system, what you think about it. Hit me. The great and divine system, folks. Well, I get ready. It reminds me of okay. Sean comes back and says, do all fetuses start off as female? Well, brother Sean, again, we kind of going to shift that for the next podcast, but why don't you, rather than us going back and forth in this quid pro quo about like DNA, why don't you make, it sounds like you have a statement to make. So why don't you just share with everybody the totality of your statement on this subject? And then, if you feel up to it, still hit me on what you think about the great and divine system. Come on, brother. I know you got it in you. Come on. Talk to me now. Talk to your brother. I'm your brother. Don't you know? Come on, Marvin. I'm your brother. Don't you know? You should be hitting me to get on me about how I can't hold a note. If I was sitting there with you, you'd be hitting me. You'd be getting at me on that. Come on, brethren. Get at me. Don't you know? Okay. Thank you for chiming in. My cookie dough 2 says, yes, they do start as female. There's your answer, brother. Yes, they do start as female. My cookie dough 2, have you been in the whole time and are you up on? Okay. After approximately 6 to 7 weeks of gestation, however, the expression of the gene on the Y chromosome induces change that result in the development of the testes. Bang. There we go. But we can Google that, folks, which is cool. And that's another source of information or means of which we can get in our studies. Hold up. God's sons in the house, word life. God's son, rap yes, sing no. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're in the house, but elaborate, brother. What you mean, rap yes, sing no? Oh, that I got flow skills, but I cannot sing. I know. I know, brother. I know. You'll never hear me claim to have the golden voice, right? I can't put it down like that. But, from time to time, I might mess around and irritate somebody's eardrums. True that, bro. What do you think, God's son, about what I said and what the subject matter is on this great and divine system, right? Where we are having this human experience for the true that, bro. We're having this human experience for the opportunity to gain in spiritual maturation, right? That we are multidimensional light beings or spiritual beings before we become human beings or physical corporeal beings. And we do so to have this corporeal physical experience so that we can grow and mature in a manner that allows us to solve the sort of great equation or conundrum that all evolving species face, right? Which is technological advancement absent spiritual maturation equals self-destruction, right? And I had posed that essentially, had we not gained enough spiritual maturation and had we not all made it to where we're going through this evolution in higher consciousness, that we would have indeed destroyed ourselves, right? Which is the result or the overall ending of a species that never finds its way out of separation mentality to unity consciousness, which it allows it to solve that equation and to survive on, to make it in the highest states of its expression, to be its best self and into higher consciousness. What do you think about that great and divine system and the fact that this is a system that has gone on throughout the galaxy and in fact the universe for eons, and we're just the newest species to be undergoing it and to have made it essentially to the finish line, right? Everybody, somebody get back at me on that. One person, someone, please get back at me on that word life. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes to see who chimes in on that. Come on, folks, holler at me now. God's son, my cookie dough, which I forget who that is. I think we are far from the finish line. Okay. By the finish line, what I mean is we have at least survived past the precipice of our own self-destruction and have made it into this area of the galaxy, which we know is fostering evolution into higher consciousness. So essentially, from that perspective, we're already at the finish line. But give me more of your thoughts on that. What about the system itself? Okay, here we go. God's son chimes in with, all I can say is unity is a power that helps us overcome the powers that be. True that. As I stated earlier, the socially economic elite and those aligned with them are heavily invested in essentially fighting this, right? Knowing and have known for a long time that we would make it to this point, we'd be going through this. They have been doing everything that they possibly could to attempt to avert making it to this point, to attempt to sort of sideline or find an alternate. Again, I've even talked about alternate timelines that they've tried to have us in, which sort of jumps into how we were having a conversation in the previous podcast about things like the Mandela effect, right? But yeah, there are definitely powers that be who would like to have averted this evolution in consciousness that we are experiencing. But rest assured, folks, we are indeed experiencing that. It's just that they're panicking about it. And for those who might be curious, I cut myself shaving right in the corner of my mouth a few days ago, and the way it's healing back is just like it's dope that it does that our bodies function in that way. But yeah, it can draw my attention from time to time. But yeah, thank you for that, Godson. Really important point that yeah, there are many who are invested in, all who are aligned in that cabal, so to speak, right, are heavily invested in and have been heavily invested in preventing this. Folks, just so you know, right, it is my stance that most of the efforts of CERN are relative to preventing this and dealing with and their desperate acts to try and avert this, right? If you're not familiar with what CERN is doing, please, when you have the opportunity, do a little quick Google search or some type of research on what they are doing with their particle collider and some of the other experiments that they are doing involving multidimensionality. They're deep. They're deep, folks. Yes, keep the mind close is their goal. Keep the mind closed. Indeed. They don't want folks, again, we're the new species on the block that has gotten to this point in the galaxy where we are being exposed to these incredibly powerful and transformative evolutionary energies, right? That's what's here for us. That's why I say the finish line, because we made it to where we can be exposed to these energies. And this is not esoteric. This is scientific. Scientists have been like commenting on this in scientific journals for over a decade now, right? So we are going through this, and it is quantifiable, it is researchable, it is something that you can wrap your head around. Just do the research and invest a little time into it to understand. And you will also see very easily that there's two sides, right? There are the socially economic elite and those who are aligned with them, who want to hold on to an old paradigm that does not have room for and could not exist under a new higher consciousness in humanity or people, whatever term you'd like to utilize. There is, although on the other side, a vast amount of us who are waking up, millions by the day, who are holding on to the fact that we are now entering and cementing in place our new paradigm, a new way the world works, right? That is fostered by and that is powered by this evolution and higher consciousness that we're experiencing now on the planet. Okay. So, yeah, they want to keep minds closed because open minds is a big part of us evolving. So thank you for that. My cookie dough. I forget who that is. I think that's who is that? That might be Brother T from down get-go. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for chiming in. All right. So anybody else with some comment on the great and divine system? How about the aspect of other species in the galaxy and universe having already gone through this and watching us go through this right now and being heavily invested on seeing this, us, the new species, evolve, right? What do y'all think about that? Please chime in on that. Pardon me, just a quick bite. Pardon me. All right, folks. Wait a few more. Okay, Tony Atlas in the house. Brother Silo. All right. Spend more time. Okay, instead of sin, he's probably going to say spend more time in the sun. True religion. Word life. What did I say earlier in the podcast, folks? Light is the most expansive and most efficient means of transmitting information. It is the most powerful modality through which to transmit information. When you don't spend time in the sun, not only are you lacking in that melanin D, not only are you lacking simply in the raw energy that you're provided, you are lacking in information that we receive directly into our corporeal being via the sunlight, right? When you are in the sun, your mind is naturally more open. Word life. Thank you, Brother Silo. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else, please come in if you got something else. I'm waiting for you to holler at me. Anybody else from earlier on still hanging in, like Heather? Are you still with me? If so, chime in and give me. I really would love to see what you think about the great and divine system. Anybody else? Now, in this awakening process, for me particularly, folks, um, I've had to lean on and utilize many disciplines, right? Um, Psychology, anthropology, archaeology, ufology is one of them, right? And in doing that, there is a whole body of information, a whole school of thought that a lot of people are closed off to. That there are some very powerful things that can be gained, that can be learned, that I would recommend we all open ourselves up to at some point. All right. Oh, sorry, Heather. We don't want you to wreck, baby. Don't wreck. Drive careful. She's driving. We want her to do that. Sean Johnson jumps back in, says, Tony Atlas, I agree. We are some people, our true culture. Okay. True that, Sean. Man, I just was charging up earlier and had a very powerful charging yesterday, in fact, and many times. And folks who have seen me in recent years might even comment that, like, during this time of the year, I get about 3-4 shades darker. True that. Because I believe in getting in that sun. I get barefoot, I get out in the grass, and I connect with great brethren, the sun, with great Gaia, with great friend, the wind, with all of nature and creation, seen and unseen. And I start a charging process where I allow that energy from the sun to come into me in a powerful and transformative way. And it has benefited me immensely. And I would do nothing but recommend it to all of you to do that or some form of it. All right. Anybody else? Folks, you can announce yourselves if I haven't already announced you and said hi to you and welcomed you in the conversation. Please do so, because I'm here for you, and I most certainly appreciate you being here for us. So feel free to announce yourself and let me say what's up to you, and make sure that your presence is known by everyone. True that. How about let me share with y'all real quick something that's been real encouraging. Hip hop had been under powerful attack as a form of music, essentially taken over by what we refer to as the industry, right? Which is just essentially saying it has come under control of socially economic elite. My man, BBS Slim, thank you for hollering at me, brethren. Man. Glad to see you come in. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you. We're in here talking about the great and divine system in which human beings and all beings that come into corporeal existence have the all opportunity to deal with the equation of technological advancement, absent spiritual maturation equals self-destruction, and that the means of solving that equation or that puzzle, so to speak, or that enigma, is that a species must learn to find its way out of separation mentality into unity consciousness. And in unity consciousness, you can find the solution to that, to survive on into our highest states, to truly evolve into our best selves, and to find our highest states of consciousness. So welcome to the conversation, right? Man, and I want to hear from anybody about that. And what I was about to state was that something encouraging that I've experienced lately that I want to share with y'all is I was talking about how hip hop has been taken over, by the industry and used by the socially economic elite. Thank you, brethren. Truly. And been used by the socially economic elite as a tool to spread ignorance and lower consciousness, right? To keep minds closed instead of evolving. But I'm seeing artists fighting back and pushing back on that, right? And I'm seeing some conscious, high vibrational frequency, evolved artists getting out there and putting out that kind of music. And one of the artists that really has caught my eye lately and who I've been listening to is Brother Free Soul and all the other artists in his camp and affiliated with him. Man, they've been putting out some powerful music that has encouraged me, man. Hip hop is back, right? When I'm able to hear artists like that. So everybody, please, again, come in and chime in. What I'm gonna do real quick is to play a quick song. I'm guessing that the brother won't mind. I don't want to gain any benefit by replaying this brother's song on my site or anything. I do it for no financial gain. Certainly, it is only for the spread of the positive message contained within the lyrics. But here's a jam that the brother made called No Limit, where he speaks directly about the ancestors talking to him and expressing that he has no limit. And truly in this evolved state, folks, and now in higher consciousness, we all have no limit. Huh? All right, let me play this from the brother Free Soul real quick. All right. Free Soul, No Limit. Free Soul, No Limit. And I'm playing this just like anybody else listening as somebody enjoying this brother's musical expression. Again, for no financial gain, only for promotional purposes and furthering of a message, of a positive message, right? Here we go. This is Free Soul featuring Miles Jaw. Their official video you can find on YouTube. The song is called No Limit. I love it, folks. We're going to let that play. Anybody else who has anything else that they want to chime in on this particular week's subject, please throw it in the chat. And after the song, we'll open it back up. Yeah. Come on. Come on. That's right. That's right. No limits, brother. Come on. We can have prosperity. Ain't nothing wrong with it. We ain't got to be broke, y'all. I had to teach myself that lesson along the way. That's why I got prosperity on the way. What's that? Some of it just touched down right now. Talking about balancing everything, not just at somebody's job. And I do my best. I never show it, but I'm playing chess. Looking for knowledge and stacking up checks. I just might roll up so I never stress. I'm feeling like Master P. No, it ain't no limits on me. Shout out to Master P. I'm taking what's mine. No, I do not need no key. I'm standing on business. Keep it real till I'm finished. No, they want me to go. I ain't never gonna quit it. I was born to get it. Start to the finish. I'm pushing the clock, manifesting the millions. I break through the ceilings. My ancestors told me I don't got no limits. Hey. My ancestors told me I don't got no limits. Gotta think bigger. Yeah. I was born to win it. Start to the finish. I'm pushing the clock, manifesting the millions. Folks, just so you know, please never think the ancestors ain't paying attention and ain't been waiting on us to make it to this point. Pacific. When I step into the building, I left me a puddle. Now all of my shadows are slipping. I came to get my percentage and leave an empire behind the past of my children. Yeah. Moving in my truth, connected to my roots, just like the foundation of buildings. Straight from out the dirt, reflection of the earth. Yeah, we the same ones that build pyramids. This shit feel like I'm a pharaoh. Come on. Shooting sharper than a bow and arrow. Spread my wings on them just like a sparrow and take off. Haters eat the smoke out my exhaust. Yeah. Earth and found life up on Mars. You ain't thought and I'm setting the charge. Keep it mellow, but I'm about to ball. Verses sting like a hornet. They stuck in the nest off the hook. I cannot let them off. Come on. I'm applying the pressure to cultivate diamonds. Don't ask me why I'm going hard. Other cities applying the pressure to cultivate diamonds. Come on. I said I want it all. But the world I was born to get it. Start to the finish. I'm pushing the clock, manifesting the millions. I break through the ceilings. Come on. My ancestors told me I don't got no limits. Gotta think bigger. Come on. My ancestors told me I don't got no limits. Gotta think bigger. Yeah. I was born to win it. Start to the finish. I love it. Manifesting the millions. I break through the ceilings. My ancestors told me I don't got no limits. Folks, this is evidence. Again, the worldwide movement, peace, love, respect is building. We take back that hip hop. That's going to be a powerful tool. Remember, I said that. Powerful tool. All right, folks, again, that was Free Soul, right? With the song No Limit featuring Miles Jaw. Shout out to them brothers. Powerful music. The ancestors, most certainly, y'all. Listen, humanity been evolving. We've been going through this. We done made it through so many different issues and problems and things that we had to grow out of. That now, just like the Hopi have said, right? That this is both the most difficult and the most important time on the planet. The most beautiful time, because this is the time that we evolve, that we take the next stage. We move into the next stage of human evolution, of higher consciousness evolution, shall I say. Come on, folks. I still got the bop in me a little bit, man. I love that, them giving homage to the ancestors and keeping that in their mind, and just to see and hear young folks putting that in their music, to me, is a powerful step in the right direction. Word life. All right, so does anybody, come on, folks, chime back in. I see we still got some folks in here. Give me something that y'all feel or think about the great and divine system and why we are having this human experience. What is your take on it? How do you see it? I'm going to wait a second here and see what y'all come up with. Holla at me, please, anybody. BBS Slim, Sean, Heather, Tony Atlas, My Cookie Dough, God's Son, anybody. All my wonderful friends and family who done jumped in here. Man, first of all, thank you all. Again, man, we have grown, haven't we? We've been having some conversations. All right, one reason to love. Okay, true that. Give me a little bit more. Will you express that a little bit more, My Cookie Dough too? I think that's Brother T. Hit me off with a little something else, Brother T, if that's you. Thank you, Solar system. Give me a little bit more on that great and divine system, brother. Remember, once again, folks, this is an adult platform, right? We've changed the format from what it is typically on the channel, and the podcast falls in adult format, right? Simply because it's not edited, we are live, and we just letting it fly, right? And we getting comfortable and building with each other, grown folk having positive, progressive conversations. Come on, folks. Somebody else come and jump in and give me something on the great and divine system. Well, we've been in it for a while now. I'm going to give it another minute or two and see if y'all got anything else. Otherwise, I'm going to close it out and get ready for next week. But folks, please know, and I mean this with all sincerity, I love you all. I appreciate you all, truly. What we do in this format, our conversations, means a great deal to me and gives further purpose and a true venue for me to be able to continue to really grow what is now my life's work, the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect is nothing without y'all. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. I truly appreciate that. Let me not fail to state that. All right. Another minute or two, folks, and we out. Somebody got something for me, holler back on the great and divine system and why we are having this human experience. More about what it means for us as multidimensional light beings to have a corporeal or physical or human experience, right? Sean Johnson says, one love, unity. Thank you, brother. True indeed. We got to have it. One love. We need unity consciousness to solve this, folks, to continue further in being our best selves, to live our best lives. We got to escape from separation mentality and continue to grow and surge powerfully forward in unity consciousness. All right? All right, folks. Well, it has been a magnificent week yet again. It has been a magnificent conversation. I appreciate all of y'all and love you so much for coming and being with me again. Going once, going twice, going three times. No, really, if anybody got anything else, please say it right now. Otherwise, in a few more seconds, I'm gonna wrap it up in gratitude, in extreme gratitude for another magnificent podcast that we had, another opportunity for us to have a wonderful conversation together, right? To share in all this love and interest and discovery with one another is fantastic, right? And again, has been another magnificent week of that. And I thank you, all of you, for that. All right. So please remember, y'all, join me again next week. It is every Saturday, every single Saturday at 7 p.m. We get together and we build, We bust up all the obstacles and obstructions that are keeping us from being our best selves and living our best lives. And on the other side of that, we build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Thank you all for building with Big King. I love you all. I'm out.